What's up, bros and hoes, whatever floats your goat? It's Relentless here, bringing you yet another Division build video. If you happen to be new to the channel, ground and pound that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so that you know each and every time a new video is uploaded. Now, I have been called a cheater using Cronus, you name it, just because it's nothing new. It's no new build that's been implemented into the game. It's just a different way of doing it that is just completely OP. They do not know what hit them, how it's done, and their only explanation is you have to be cheating, because it hits them so hard, so heavy, so fast that they bleed out and die before they can even pop a medkit, a box, or anything. So that's the only thing that they can do, is result to calling you a cheater. But as anyone knows me, I do not use any kind of glitches, exploits, any kind of those things, form or fashion, because that is just not me. I just actually do my research and do a lot of testing and just make things that have been in the game all along and just try to make them better than what they are and what everybody else is doing them. And before we hop into it, don't forget to check out the links in the description below. One of those links will be the full, absolute gameplay of this build and of this implementation of this build, and completely wreaking havoc on anything and everybody that steps in my path. And on top of that, there's also another link to that awesome Dark Zone Rogue Panda t-shirt. It's a awesome fire apparel. They're going really fast, and I appreciate all the love and support when it comes to it. So get them while they last, get them while you can. Supplies are limited, and like I said, they are selling like hotcakes, and there's only a very few left. But without further ado, let's hop right into it. As you can see, it's nothing new. It is still the 6-piece Predator's mark. But in the way that I have implemented it and changed things up makes it completely and utterly OP, to where it'll hit them so hard, so fast, they won't have time to react or do anything, just as I previously stated. But let's go over the gear and the exact mods, and then we'll go over and discuss the main components and what makes it so much OP and so much stronger than all the other Pred builds that you see out there. So let's start with the chest piece, and everything will be rolled to stamina with the exception of one piece. It doesn't matter which ones you have rolled to stam and which one that you actually have rolled to firearms. Just make sure you have 4 rolled to stamina and 1 to firearms. And on the chest, stamina and the majors, we have enemy armor damage, health, and in the minors, definitely ammo capacity. In the mod slots, we have stamina and both with crit chance. Going on to the mask and the major attributes, you definitely want crit chance on it to help out with NPCs in the Dark Zone and also to do any PvE activities. In the minors, you want damage to elites. In the mod slots, stamina with crit chance. Moving on to the knee pads. Major attributes, you definitely and always on any DPS build, you want rolled crit damage in the majors. In the minors, a little shock resistance, burn resistance helps out since there's an influx of all the flame and shock turrets that's out there. So anything that you can add that'll help deter those things, by all means, stack it whenever and however you can. And in the mod slot, stamina with crit chance and a first aid self-heal. Now moving on to the backpack. You want in the majors, as always, crit hit damage. In the minors, ammo capacity. And in the mod slots, another stamina with crit chance and 2 first aid self-heals. Now what makes this mostly OP when it comes to the type of weaponry you use, it is in my opinion and the things that I have witnessed and as much as I actually used this build, to know that SMGs apply and put a much larger and faster bleed on an enemy or NPC a lot faster than an AR does. So SMG over AR when it comes to Pred, especially when you're up close and personal. And you want the trifecta, crit damage and crit chance. Moving on to the holster, you want crit chance in the majors, and in the mod slot, a first aid self-heal. So just a quick recap. As always, you want crit chance on your mask and holster, crit damage rolled in the majors on your knee pads and backpack. Now, it's fielder's choice when it comes by way of chest piece, whether you want a little bit of extra exotic damage resilience or enemy armor damage. It had, I believe, skill haste, enemy armor damage, so I'd rather have the enemy armor damage over the little bit of skill haste, so that's why I have enemy armor damage on my chest piece. But definitely ammo capacity on chest piece and backpack and health, and the majors on your chest piece. Now, the main components of this build and the reason why it makes it OP and much more harder hitting than all the other typical Predator's Mark builds out there. We are utilizing the house. As you can see, I am running double houses. Each one has its own purpose, and we'll discuss and go over that. But starting with the main component, as you can see, my mag size is only a 30. And you're like, well, you know, you only got 30 rounds. How is that going to, you know, do anything and affect the bleed and make it even more potent than what it would be on a standard size extended magazine? Well, here to answer that question, we are running the heavy magazine spring. Because if you ever notice and have used the Predator's Mark 6 piece extensively, you'll know it seems like you'll hit them a couple times and then it'll be like a pause, and then you'll maybe miss a few shots, and then you'll proceed to hit them a couple more, and then the status effect will be put upon them by the way of bleed. And sometimes, in most cases, it'll be like a one tick, a small tick, and then a second tick, or sometimes just a small tick, and then a big tick, or it'll be like 2 tick of bleeds, and then a large, heavy bleed thereafter. And most of the time, once they first get hit with that first initial tick, they pop a med kit or drop a box. Well, with this implementation, with using the rate of fire, no magazine size, and still having crit hit damage as you typically would, that would keeps you at 136% crit hit damage, that rate of fire and hitting those 10 consecutive shots in succession will determine the bleed being put on them so hard, so fast, they won't even have time to react to whether to drop a box or a medkit. And by some chance, if they actually are able to get off a medkit, that medkit will only put them probably back at 1 full health segment. That is it. And then after that, it's just a few more taps of the trigger, a couple more bullets, and it's easy peasy. When it comes to Nomads, pretty much you proc them in that 130 round clip. That's all that it takes. So, you want rate of fire, crit damage, and reload speed. You can go rate of fire, crit chance, and crit hit damage. But as you'll see in my character sheet, I'm already at 58% crit chance, so that little extra will be, you know, is not necessary. Now you could go with the crit damage, crit chance, and then drop 1 stamina mod with crit chance on it, and then put stamina and health, so that way, you know, you have probably 3k more in toughness. But since you already have the baked in reload speed coming by way of the Predator's Mark, then additional reload speed just makes your reload even faster. And when you're having such a small magazine as only having 30 rounds in it, then that reload speed comes in quite handy. In the large optics, crit damage, optimal range, and crit chance. In the muzzle, crit damage, head trap damage, crit hit chance. In the underbarrel, crit hit damage, reload speed, and stability. Now after I initially put that hard, heavy bleed on them where they have no time to react, then I switch to my secondary house that has deadly unforgiving. Because if they by some chance do hit me with a few rounds and maybe I drop below 1 health segment, then that next initial bleed I have a 10% weapons damage bonus by way of the unforgiving for missing that 1 health segment. Or if I'm battling the server and I'm in my last health segment and before my healer can actually pop their box or a teammate pop a medkit by way of combat medic, then I can also utilize the 2 missing health segments to have 25% weapon damage bonus. So it all has a correlation and goes hand in hand. But 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be able to handle that first initial bleed by my first house that has a vicious and deadly. And as you'll see on the character sheet, 58% crit hit chance and 136% crit damage. But what makes this stand out, and see my reload speed 1.85 seconds. So what makes this stand out above and beyond all these others is they're typically running it with just a standard magazine size rate of fire and extended magazine, to where they'll have like 117 to 120% magazine size, the 4% crit damage, and by way of like 5.5% rate of fire, or they'll go the traditional 3% crit chance, 4% crit damage, and then of course the extended magazine around anywhere between 117 to 120%. That is the typical way. Back in the day, when it comes to the 6-piece, before the house was introduced, the go-to would be the MP7 just before the high RPM rate of fire, so that way you can hit them hard, heavy, and fast, and you don't necessarily having to miss so many shots. You can hit 10 consecutive in succession so fast that they don't have time to react. And with having such a high rate of fire by way of heavy magazine spring, I achieve that RPM that the old MP7 actually had, and that would be 950 RPM. And you'll see this in the full gameplay video. Don't forget to check out that link. But I'll also have clips of me demonstrating also at the end of this video. But the main component of showing this masterpiece and work of just bleeding out Nomad after Nomad with just a half, not even the full 30 round mag, but just a half of that 30 round magazine, and nothing else is required. Just those half magazine of 15 rounds, and that will be all she wrote, and they won't know what actually hit them. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know I'm going to probably get a lot of hate, because there seems to be a lot of people that hate Predator's Mark, but yet if you know every build, the ins and outs, the weaknesses and the strengths of all builds, then you'll know how to counter people's counters, and also you'll know how to counter all the builds. So just study. If there's one particular build that you hate running into, then my suggestion would be actually play with that build, spec it out the way it's usually and typically run, use it so that way you know the ins and outs of it, and so that way you can know firsthand and foremost how to counter it, and also you'll figure out how to counter the counters. So that way when you're playing up against it, you'll know how they're going to counter your counters, and then you can counter their counters, if that makes sense. But anyways, I hope this has been informative. I hope you enjoyed it. Try it out. You'll probably get a lot of hate, probably get accused of cheating, but it is definitely a new way and definitely an OP way of utilizing the 6-piece pred. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you fudging later. The faster you can shoot and the faster you can land the bullets, the faster will determine the bleed. Let's see, that was 163 for just one tick of bleed.
Yeah, that makes sense though, that heavy spring mag.
Yeah, see, watch.
Hey, goddamn it. That's fucked up.
Dang, that bleed nasty.
I thought he was gonna fight us. Like, yeah. He said, "Pshung, I'm out." That pop. Oh, you got me. GG.
Melted. Melted.
Yeah, he's not even shooting. Okay. I see. Okay. Yeah, he is pissed, bro. That was my boy. Yeah, my boy.
I think they probably pissed at me mostly because it seems like my name keep popping up.
Yeah, he's gonna play out.
Back down.
You know, so grimy, bro.
I let him get back up. I mean, I was trying to be nice.